Hi and welcome to today's video. Today I'm going to be challenging myself to using a limited color palette, which is pretty daunting but also a nice challenge, and just wanted to show as well that you don't need fancy art supplies or even the best art supplies to make art. These are really simple paints. I think they're even kids paints, but I'm going to be using just these colors today. I have a black, a white, a dark blue, a light green, a yellow, and a black, and I'm going to be using the sketchbook today. It's a square size sketchbook and I'm excited for this project but also a little bit nervous. But today I'm going to be doing a picture of a forest. This is a Photo Draw Club prompt which is available on the Photo Draw Club website on Instagram, so check it out there. And this is the picture. It's a beautiful sunlit forest, and that's going to be my inspiration for today. So I'm starting out by just laying out all of these colors. You can get a good look at the vibrancy. We've got the primary colors, which is really beneficial when making art, because actually you can mix your primary colors and make tons and tons of different colors. So essentially, if you just have red, yellow, and blue, you are good to go. Black and white also help when making art because they can help lighten or darken your colors. So you can use your black with your green to make a darker green if you'd like. You can use your white with your yellow to make a lighter yellow, etc. But it's really important to have those primary colors when starting out. So I'm marking out these colors. I've got like a good bunch of color that I'm putting onto this palette. For my palette, I'm using a recycled tray, polystyrene tray, and I like using these for palettes because they're just really easy to clean afterwards, or if the paint dries on them, then it's really easy to just put other paint on top of it. And so yeah, let's get into this video, the limited color palette with acrylic painting. So I'm going to start by taking a bit of my white and mixing it in with my dark blue, and this is creating a nice like sky color, which I'm going to be laying down at the top of my page. This is going to be the background that I'm working on first, and this is going to be kind of like a light sky with a couple of clouds in it as well. Now that I've got my sky marked off, I'm going to mix a little bit of a lighter yellow using the yellow and the white. And this is going to be the part of my forest that is quite lit by the sun. So it's the central part, it's in between the trees. So I'm going to mark down this yellow as much as possible. And then I want to take a little bit of yellow and mix it in with my dark blue to form a green, because your primary colors yellow and blue form green when they're mixed together. So I'm going to mix a nice dark green, and that's going to be the leaves on my forest floor. So I'm going to mark that in and do that on both sides of this picture, as well as creating a little bit of detailing of like trees and bushes in the background before I start doing any of like my forest trees. I'm also going to go ahead after I finish painting this green and add in a little bit more white just to lighten things, and I'm mixing that with the green to just make a nice light green to paint on top of the dark green. This also helps just give my green a little bit of texture, a little bit of layers, so that later on when I'm painting leaves and other things, it already looks like there's a couple of layers there. So that's sort of the idea behind adding all of this white now. And I'm also going to add this white onto my yellow in a few minutes, just to like really lighten the yellow as well, and bring through a couple of the darker shades of yellow and then have like lighter shades of yellow on top of that. So as you can see, I'm leaving spaces in between the white as I'm painting it onto the yellow, so that I'm still getting some of that brightness coming through, but it's not like an overwhelming brightness of yellow, if that makes any sense. So now what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be adding a little bit more green. So I'm mixing a bit of my black with this light green and a little bit of yellow with that as well, and just mixing like a different sort of green to what I've used already. And this is going to form some more shrubs and bushes at the back. And when I'm painting shrubs and bushes, I really like to do this dotting motion with the brush, because I think it creates quite a nice texture that looks quite a lot like shrubbery or bushes. Now we have the fun part where I'm going to be painting in the trees. I'm going to start with the trees that are furthest away, and they are also the trees that I'm going to be painting the thinnest. So I'm using my black color for this because the trees are far away. It doesn't matter that they shouldn't really have too much detail because they're far from the eye. The trees that are closer, I'm going to be painting a little bit bigger, as you'll see in a few minutes, and those will have a little bit more detailing than the trees that are further behind. I'll also mix later on another color to add on to the black. So I'm just creating a few of these. I'm going to have quite a few trees that are close together, so that that light of the sky that's coming through is sort of visible between all these layers and layers of trees. I love walking in forests, and when you look ahead of you, it's just like layers and layers and layers of trees. So that's kind of what I'm trying to create in this painting. And also where I took the original photograph of the Sunlit Forest was this beautiful forest where it was just layers and layers of trees, and it was just so relaxing to just stand there and notice that light kind of passing through the trees. And yeah, it's just, I really like forests. So I'm really enjoying creating this painting of one today. So as you can see, I've got my bigger trees in the foreground and my smaller trees in the background. I'm then also going to be taking my white, and I'm going to be making lines on one side of each of the trees, with the line of white facing where the light source is coming from, which is in the middle of my painting. This is because the light is illuminating these parts of the tree, so I want to really highlight that. And yeah, the white will kind of help create that effect of having, that light shining through. So that's the plan here with the white. Now what I'm going to do is mix a darker green. So once again, I'm taking some yellow, mixing it with my blue, and I might even add a bit of black if I want to make it really dark. But I think for now, this green will stand out nicely. So I want to just take this movement of brush, really dabbing the brush onto the page, and this is a nice way to create the effect of leaves as you're painting. So I'm going to do that all along my forest floor, and also dotting those bushes at the back to sort of really give that effect of leaves. And yeah, as I'm recording this video, there's actually a whole bunch of trees outside just swaying in the wind, and it's really beautiful to see all the movement of the leaves. That's kind of making me think of this painting that I'm doing right now, as I'm painting just all these leaves and trying to create all those layers and show the, each leaf is important part of this whole picture. So yeah, I'm just going to dot as many leaves as possible. I'm also making the leaves in the front part of my picture a lot bigger than the ones at the back. So you can also do this with, changing over your brushes if you'd like. Use a bit of a bigger brush for your front leaves and smaller brush for your back leaves, or intentionally create bigger shapes with your brush as you're painting. And this is where we're at so far. I think it's starting to take shape, and I'm really excited about how this is turning out. So now what I want to do is take my white and really add a little bit more lightness to the part where the sun is going to be. So as you can see, I'm doing it just in the middle of my picture in the sky there, just really trying to lighten that part of the picture as much as possible, adding in that light so that it's the sun really coming through there. And I'm using white to do this. You can also mix a very light green and do it with that on the leaves, or mix a really light blue and use that for your sky. But for this picture, I think the white itself is creating a nice effect, because I'm also painting this picture using very wet paint. So I'm doing it within about half an hour, and I'm just painting as I'm going. I'm not stopping in between, so the paint is still like very pliable and flexible and workable. So if I'm putting the white on top of those colors, it's still adding in a little bit of that mix as I'm going, if that makes sense. So now what I'm doing is I'm finally getting to use that red that's been sitting there for a while, and I've mixed a kind of maroon color. So I've taken a little bit of black, mixed it with a lot of red, and then added a little bit of white. And this is what I'm painting onto my trees that are in the front part of the picture, to give them a little bit more detailing and a little bit more definition than my trees that are at the back. I'm also going to take my black, and I'm going to paint the opposite side to the white. So I have the white line going down where the light is hitting the tree, and then I'm taking my black paint and doing it on the opposite side of the tree, almost like the shadow part of the tree. I'm now also going to mix a really nice light green using the yellow and the light green that was one of the colors, and I'm going to be dotting this to create a bunch of leaves that are on the tree. And I love when I do this part of the picture, because it really does start to look like a forest then and just adds a lot of detail. So I'm not really thinking too much about where I'm putting the leaves. I'm just kind of dotting as I go. And I'm also going to add these two big leaves in the foreground of my picture, and I'm going to have a little bit more detailing on these leaves. So I'm using a few like green colors, and just adding a little bit of a darker color for the shadow on the undersides of the leaves. And then I'll also add a little bit of line detailing on top of the leaf as well. And so, coming to the end of this limited color painting of this beautiful sunlit forest, I think it has turned out pretty well, and I hope it's shown you that you really don't need a lot of colors and paints in order to start painting, to start creating art. You really could create a decent painting with just a limited color palette, even with just red, blue, and yellow, and black and white are just extra treats. And having this light green was a little bit of a help too. But it's really like you can make a really great painting with a super limited palette. So thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please do like and subscribe, and I'll see you soon for another video.